69752. That it was his phone number. That it was tattooed there on his left forearm so he wouldn't forget it. That's what my grandfather told me, and that's what I grew up believing. In the 70s, the country's phone numbers were all 5 digits. I called him Ojcze because he called me Ojcze, which in Yiddish means something corny. I liked his Polish accent. I liked to dip my pinky finger in his glass of whiskey. I liked asking him to draw me pictures, even though all he ever really drew were varying sketches of one twisted, disfigured hat. I liked the beet red color of his sauce, chrein in Yiddish. He poured over his white ball of fish, gefilte fish in Yiddish. I liked to join him on his long walks through the neighborhood, the same neighborhood where one night, in the middle of an empty field, a plane filled with cattle had crashed. This is true, by the way. But mainly, I just liked that number, his number. It wasn't long, however, before I understood his phone joke and the important psychological weight it carried, and eventually, although nobody ever admitted it, the historical significance of that number. Then, whenever we would be walking together or whenever he would be drawing a series of hats, I would find myself staring at those 5 digits. Strangely happy, I would play at inventing the secret scene of how he had gotten them. My grandfather lying face up on a hospital stretcher, while an immense German officer, dressed in black, stood above him shouting out the numbers to a feeble-looking German nurse, also dressed in black, who would then administer them to my grandfather, one by one, with branding irons. Or my grandfather, sitting on a small wooden stool, facing a semicircle of Germans dressed in white lab coats, with white gloves and white lights on their heads like miners. And then, when one of the Germans would blurt out a number, a clown, illuminated by the bright German spotlights, would ride in on a unicycle, pull out a magic marker whose green ink could never be erased, and write that number on my grandfather's forearm while all the German scientists applauded. Or my grandfather, standing in front of a movie theater box office, sticking his left forearm through the round opening in the glass where the tickets are passed, while on the other side of the window a big, fat, hairy German would take one of those rubber stamps with adjustable dates like they use at the banks and slam it down on my grandfather's arm, as if permanently marking the most important date in history. That's how I played with his number, clandestinely, hypnotized by those 5 green and mysterious digits that seemed tattooed not just on his forearm, but on his soul.